Welcome to the next module of the Big Picture Marketing Strategy. We're ready for the fifth of 6 Bs. This is the B for behaviors. And this is where we actually go to market and start to affect how the consumer acts, thinks, and sees and feels about our brand. We do that with marketing programs. And you'll recognize these if you've had some previous marketing courses as the 4 Ps of marketing. We look at it a little bit differently than just the 4 Ps, but here's what we're going to cover when we think about behaviors. And we're going to break this whole module down into 4 different presentations, one for each of these parts of the behavior issues, the executional part of marketing. First, we're going to talk about how you deliver the value proposition throughout the brand experience, the customer journey experience. If you recall from the previous module, we built a customer journey map and we also built a value proposition, but we did it for one point in time. And now we're going to expand that across the entire journey and really start to manage that belief around importance and perception of the brand. Next, we're going to look at our solution portfolio, both products and services, and how you're supposed to think about that in terms of big picture execution. Pricing is following the product solutions. How do we communicate our value through price? And then we look at our communications, how we actually promote the brand. What do we say to the market to get them to believe what we want them to believe through integrated communications? And then finally, we're going to look at our channel strategies here. If I slide over a little bit, let me get myself out of the way here. If we look at how we align our channel partners to run the distribution for us. And that channel part of it is also a very important part of where we communicate value and create the experience. So let's look at the idea first of how we align execution to change customer behavior. If you remember, this is the looks like the six box positioning tool. Current beliefs lead to current behaviors. Desired beliefs lead to desired behaviors. And we transform somebody from what they currently believe to what we now want them to believe with our value proposition, that tip of the spear, that thing that we say, that claim. But this is just one point in time. And what we have to realize is that customers go through a series of steps. They go through that journey. And the question we should ask ourselves is, hey, what should we be saying at each step of the journey? It's different. In other words, think about it as having a different value proposition at each point in time that the customer is experiencing your brand. It's a pretty sophisticated way to think, but this is what makes the big picture such a powerful framework, far more sophisticated than most of the models that are out there. So when you think about the customer journey for this example that we've used throughout the course, Peloton, that boutique home gym idea of getting on a bike or a treadmill and participating with others to work out, to exercise. So think about the journey and the different things that are going through that customer's mind at each step of the journey as you see here. And we need to realize that it's different. Those beliefs vary and change as we want them to change. So we have to change with it. We have to move that belief system through the things that we say with our executional elements. And so the value proposition, Peloton brings the best boutique fitness experience to your home so you can conveniently become the best version of yourself. So this is the claim, and then we start to look for the desired beliefs. What are those things that we start to get out of the customer in terms of they now believe a set of things at each step. You see how we've taken the 6-box positioning, the value proposition. We're now going to stretch it out and expand it at each of these steps of the customer journey and create a richer experience and better outcome for ourselves. And this is the tool that you're going to use. You see here. Now, there's a lot on this page, so I'm not going to read it all, but I do want to point out a couple things. First of all, what you'll see up here is this idea of a along the top, the steps of the customer journey: awareness, search and compare, purchase, use, etc. And down the left-hand column are the four of the boxes from the positioning tool: current beliefs, current behaviors, desired beliefs, desired behaviors. And notice how we implement basically an idea of what the customer is thinking and doing at each step. We're really micro analyzing now down on the ground, right down where the customer is, and looking at how they think about things to make it clear in our mind about what's happening. We don't leave it to chance. And that's the beauty of this powerful model, really getting our arms around what this customer is thinking and doing so we can create the value for them that they seek. All right, now, when we now take a look at the 4 Ps, in this video, I'm going to continue the discussion and roll right into the first of the 4 so-called Ps, product and services, and specifically looking at products and services as attributes of the brand, right? Recall our earlier discussion where a brand and a product are very different. A brand is the promise. The product is the delivery vehicle that lives up to that promise. They're connected, but they're different. Let's look at how we want you to think about that in the big picture framework. So the way to think about a product or service in the context of big picture is with this idea that all solutions, when I say solution, that means product and service, they're interchangeable. Solution is the thing that delivers benefits to the customer. They have certain attributes, and we call them search, experience, and credence attributes. So let's explore these. And what I'm going to ask you to think about is, for a particular product or service, and we'll do an example here in a minute, their attributes of that product can be broken into 3 types: search, experience, or credence attributes. And they look like this. Search experience are those attributes of the product that can be evaluated prior to you consuming it. In other words, you can look at the product, you can read about it online, you can talk to others, you can evaluate them before having to consume the product. Whereas experience attributes are just the opposite. You can only assess those after the product has been consumed. And finally, as credence, those are attributes that you cannot assess even after consumption. You just sort of feel them or know them, so to speak. And this is, this is how you should think about these variables. Let's do an example. You see some examples on the slide here, but I'm going to use this example of this refreshing, sparkling water that I'm consuming right now. If we look at search attributes of this can of water, this sparkling water, I can see the quantity. I can see how cold it is by putting my hand around it. I can read the nutritional information about it that you see on every product. I can read the brand. I can read information about calories, taste, that's called peach. What is it? Peach pear taste. Okay. So those are attributes that I can evaluate before I even consume this. This would be on the shelf and I could look at this. All right. So what are the experience attributes? Those are the ones that I can experience only after I consume it. So the temperature, the taste, the smell, the sparkly carbonation, I can experience that. But what about credence? Credence is the hard one. Credence is what happens in my head. I just think I'm healthier. I think I'm happy with this. How do you evaluate the degree of happiness? Well, you can't. It's more of just a something in your head, a belief deep in your head that you feel good. I feel hydrated. I feel healthy. I feel refreshed. Very, very, very subjective, right? What does the word refreshed mean? So the product truly has those attributes, and In the big picture, you need to take your product or service and break it down to these three types. The examples you see on the slide here are for a car. So for a car, like a new car, a attribute would be its price, ratings on it, the advertised miles per gallon, the number of seats that it has, the color, things like that. Experience would be handling and how it actual miles per gallon and how it feels and how it drives and things like that. And credence for a car, well, you feel feel pretty cool driving your new car. You're right. You feel hip. You feel interesting. You feel successful. You feel those attributes that come with owning the car of your dream, for example. Search, experience, and credence. Now, what does this all have to do with big picture? Here's what it has to do with big picture. You should recognize this as the 4 go-to-market strategies. And what big picture does for you here is it links, right? It shows you for each quadrant, like quadrant 1, acquisition leadership, we see that we're supposed to emphasize those attributes of search and experience. And that seems to make sense, right? We're going after, in quadrant 1, non-category users. So we want to emphasize those aspects of our product that are searchable and that they can experience, test drive. These are people we're trying to get into the category, and they won't even consider it unless they know what it's about. But over in quadrant 2, we now are dealing with our current 100% loyal customers. They know all about the category and all about our brand. And here we just remind them of the credence value. Hey, you're really smart to buy our product. You look great in that. You really are a successful person. It's all about that intangible benefit. Down in quadrants 3 and 4, it's more search and experience as related to a competitor. It's all about competition and comparisons down in quadrants 3 and 4. And so here again, the idea is that once you've picked a quadrant, which by this point in the big picture, you should know which quadrant you're in, 1, 2, 3, or 4. And then you let that quadrant guide you in terms of how you build the product and relate to the product and promote the product. You make them obvious in all your marketing and campaigns, your promotional campaigns, those attributes that are most relevant to the customer in that quadrant. That's the linkage between the big picture go-to-market strategies and the tactical executions around product and services. So you think about the life cycle attribute. We talked about life, product cycle, and brand customer experience. And so it would look something like this. You would look at how the product moves through its life cycle. And by the way, it also lines up very nicely with the brand customer experience. And it's a useful framework for you just to think about, you're managing not just a product as a marketer, you're managing really in a continuum of experiences that customer has, with the product being a very important one. Not the only one, but a very important one. Okay, that is it for products and services and solutions. In the coming modules, you're going to dive into the issues of price, promotion, and marketing channels.